Hey there, adventurers, and welcome back to another episode of the Awkward Dungeon Master. This week, I wanted to talk to you about ways that you could pare down higher CR level monsters for a lower level party. So a little while back, I had one of my other Dungeon Master friends approach me, and she kind of wanted to know how to take down a higher CR level monster so that she could still use it in combat for a level 3 party. And that's a difficult question. I mean, if you completely constrain yourself to the CR restrictions, so you don't kill everybody, just with the monsters that are available, you're kind of limiting yourself. As a DM, you can always take stuff and pare it down, or pair it up. So you could take a lower level monster and add abilities to it. Matt Colville has a great video about that I will link down in the description. You guys should totally check that one out about adding stuff to monsters that you're using in combat to make combat more interesting. So I will definitely link that down below. I enjoyed that one. But talking about monsters that are higher level and then bringing them down to where they're not going to just absolutely obliterate your entire party. Some of the more basic things that you can do are stuff like lower their AC and make them a little bit easier for your party to hit. So take the AC down by 1 or 2. Don't get too crazy. You don't need to take a AC of 18 and drop it to 12 or 14. That's ridiculous. But if you drop it just by those 2 points, you're going to increase the number of times that your players are able to hit it exponentially. Likewise, take into account damage resistances. Look at any damage resistances, condition immunities, stuff like that, and see if your party's attacks rely on those types of things very heavily. There are a lot of higher CR monsters that have resistance to all non-magical damage, regardless of what kind it is. And then there are also monsters that have resistances to different types of elemental damage or other magical damages. If you have a party that relies heavily on lightning and your creature has resistance to lightning damage, that's going to make your party's life a little bit more difficult when dealing with that monster. So consider maybe quartering it or dropping their hit points down lower. Obviously, these are very basic things. There are better ways to make monsters easier to fight, such as dropping any legendary actions that they may have, or looking at their special abilities and paring those down. There are a lot of creatures that have recharge abilities that cost an action, but they do a ton of damage, or it's an area of effect type damage, stuff like breath weapons, or area of effect type things that creatures can do. So definitely look at that stuff and possibly pare it down a little bit so you don't just completely obliterate your party right out of the gate. Likewise, you for sure are going to want to take a look at how much damage each attack does that the monster is doing. So when you look at the damage, if the maximum damage is equal to or higher than your party's average hit points, maybe pare that down a bit, because your likelihood of dropping somebody in one hit is pretty high. And as somebody who's been dropped round 1 in a combat, especially at lower levels, that gets really frustrating, because a lot of the time those lower level combats are more challenging just because people can drop so much easier. So maybe try not to drop them in one hit. Just, a recommendation. You don't have to take it, but for me personally, that's always discouraging. And you can always see the look of frustration and eventually boredom on that player's face as they're just sitting there waiting for either somebody to wake them the fuck up or for the combat to be over because they can't do anything. So definitely try not to exclude anyone from the combat in that way. Another thing I have always done, if you're not sure how to adjust armor class or hit point levels or abilities or types of damage or amounts of attacks that a creature can do, one thing I've always done is I will go into the book, and for those of you who don't know, when you're looking at the challenge rating of a monster, the CR level, so like if it's a CR2, should be equal to the average party level of your party, and it's based on a 4-character party. So if they're fighting a CR2 monster, they should have an average character level of 2, divided between 4 people. There's also a great tool called KoboldFightClub that I use to balance things for more party members or with people of different levels. It'll actually adjust it for you. You can put in, I have like 3 level 5 characters and 1 level 1 character and 1 level 9 character, and it will balance the math for you so that you don't have to sit down and actually work it all out. Some people might call that cheating. I call it work smarter, not harder. So I will link that down below. feel free to use it. It's a lovely tool. When you are looking at adjusting a monster for your party, what you can do is you can go look at the CR level that is equal to the average character level of your party and adjust whatever monster that you want to use relatively close to a monster that is a similar CR rating. Or you can pull a couple different monsters of similar CR ratings that have some similar abilities to the higher level monster that you want to use and kind of just cross-reference that way. That was something that I did a lot whenever I was first DMing. After a while, you kind of get a feel for what's appropriate. After a while, you kind of get a feel for what your party can handle. 5th edition is heavily weighted in favor of your players, so there is that to take into account as well. Even with the math, when you're looking at it, you can typically go a little bit more on the heavy side for your party when you're planning. Likewise, if you've overdone it, you can always pare it down when you're in game. So when I say that you can pare it down in game, what I mean is if you think that you've adjusted a monster appropriately and then you get into the combat and you've dropped half the party, or they're really struggling to do any damage to it, or they're just rolling really badly for the night, you can always just cut the hit points in half, or add a little bit of resistance, or narratively give the players some kind of advantage as the bad guy kind of moves into a space that is not as good for it itself, like if it made a poor life choice. Likewise, another thing you can do is if it's going to be a big bad guy later, or you can use it to be a big bad guy later, and it doesn't even have to be like end of campaign later. It can be 1 or 2 sessions later, this bad guy makes a reappearance when they're at a higher level and now they can take it on. That's an option for you. The bad guy could be like, I've gotten everything I need. I'll be seeing you again. And then he can run the fuck out of there because he doesn't need to deal with this bullshit anymore. And then they can run into him later and then wreck his face then. That's entirely up to you. It's just an option that's there for you. So those are some of the ways that I have pared down monsters in the past whenever I have been trying to adjust monsters that were above the CR rating that my players were ready for, but I wanted them narratively, or I wanted something that was way more cool and interesting to add into a combat. So if you guys have any ways that you adjust your monsters, please throw those down in the comments so that we can all have a little chit-chat about them. And until next time, keep it rolling, adventurers. Ooh, announcements, because I love you guys. So, first off, I hit 100 subscribers! I'm really excited about that, in case you can't tell. I'm excited about that because I now have a custom URL for this channel. It is youtube.com/TheAwkwardDungeonMaster. So if you guys want to suggest my videos to any of your friends, you have a really easy way to do so now. Yay! I'm awkward. I'm excited. It's fun. Second of all, I have to give a shout out to Colette Chappelle from Little Dragon Dice Corporation. She saw the video that I did reviewing her dice Kickstarter from a while back of the gem-infused dice that she did. I got a surprise package from her in the mail because apparently one of her friends watches the channel and then sent the link to her, which was delightful. And I was just excited that she got to see it. But then, I was having a terrible week at work. But I got a box in the mail, and Colette sent me some dice as a thank you, and then a cute little pin of Mooney. So I've got these fun little... Again. I got these fun layered dice from her. These ones are green, and I think it's supposed to be red or pink. And then she sent some blue, purple, and white ones. I know for a fact that these ones are for sale on her website, so I will link her website down below once again, because these are freaking beautiful, and they match the pin that she gave me as well. Love that pin so much. He's adorable. Their mascot's name is Mooney, and he just warms my little heart. Good things are happening, guys. Stick around.